In university writing centers, peer tutors work with fellow students to identify elements in a student's process that may be preventing that student from reaching their research and writing goals. Peer tutors are good writers, writers that perform well on written assignments that they submit later for academic assessment. In the Writing Center, peer tutors model many processes that work: a research process, a learning process, a writing process. All of these processes work together to produce a product that leads to a good grade or acceptance of an article or chapter for publication. AI has become a go-to resource for writers working in academic contexts. The concern is that the AI tool be used ethically, maintaining the integrity of the institution, the academy, as work emerging from a disreputable institution will always be regarded with suspicion and doubt. AI can be used as a tool to assist tutors in promoting ethical practices for learning about their context of writing and about their own processes of production. In this presentation, a student comes to the tutor with an assignment and a paper that they've drafted in response. The student writer has never before written the kind of paper that they have been assigned and are uncertain about whether they are doing it correctly. They are mostly curious about whether the paper is properly structured. The tutor models an ethical way to use AI to help students see how writers in her field structure published papers that have goals similar to the goal of her assignment. Nisha makes an appointment to talk with a peer tutor about her paper. She's unsure of how she should structure it. Of course, the word structure could imply many different problems, from being unsure of the genre, to organizing the argument in a logical way, to producing unified paragraphs or sentences that are structured grammatically. Nisha arrives and the session begins. Hello, Nisha?
Yes, hello.
Have a seat. My name is Lawrence. Let's talk about why you're here.
I have this assignment. I've never written anything like this before, and I'm unsure how to structure my paper. Can you have a look at it and tell me if I have it right?
Yeah, let me see here. Well, well, I'm not a psychology student, nor have I ever written anything like this either. You have to write a case study, it looks like. You have to use SPSS to collect and analyze data and use that information to back up your understanding of some psychological phenomenon. That's what I'm getting from this. The assignment brief does give you information about some of the content that should be evident in your case study, like six categories of information: case selection, data collection, SPSS analysis, theoretical analysis, empirical support, critical discussion, conclusion. It looks more like instructions, like each section heading. It looks more like instructions than a section heading. I don't think that you have organized your paper on case selection, data collection, maybe, but I think it's more just instruction. So I assume these categories are categories of things that you need to do in your paper. Do you have any sample case studies?
What do you mean?
Like when doing your research for this paper or in the assigned readings, did you come across research that you could use as a model? Do you have, let me see, do you have your syllabus with you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I see you had two required readings here, Goldstein, EB 2019, and also you had Sternberg and Sternberg there, Cognitive Psychology, that was 2016. Did either of those textbooks have any samples of case studies?
No, they didn't, but I did find an article that I used to help me build my case. I have the full reference in my paper.
Okay, that might be helpful. Okay. Your paper is a case study that seeks to determine the role of working memory in ADHD, according to your title. When you say you're unsure how to structure your paper, do you mean that you're unsure about the genre or about how to organize your argument?
Both.
Okay, well, since I'm unsure of the genre myself, I wonder if we could use AI to learn how arguments are structured in case studies in your field. We could ask MS Copilot to analyze the Becker article, the one that you have down here in your reference page, the one that you referred to. We could ask MS Copilot to analyze the Becker article to see how the argument is structured. What do you think?
Sure, sounds like a plan.
All right, let's party. Okay, so let's open up MS Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. The thing to remember, Nisha, is that if you upload anything to Copilot or ChatGPT or any of these platforms, it could easily become subsumed into the platform's database. So by uploading a published article that is behind a paywall, which includes most academic journals, usually you have to have some membership or subscription fee tied to it, usually paid for by the university through the library. But no matter, uploading a published article to any university, to any of these platforms could be construed as abetting a copyright violation. And if you upload your own drafts and it saves it to its own database, later you could find that Turnitin or other plagiarism software is finding it online and identifying your submission as plagiarized. The university here has contracted with Microsoft Copilot to protect privacy, so we should be okay. But if you use another platform, check to make sure your privacy and the materials that you're using, that you're uploading, are protected from becoming possession of the AI platform. Okay.
Okay.
So let me see, there's the Copilot link right there. So I'm clicking on that, and here's where I can message it. Can I make this thing? I wonder if I can get full screen here. I can open up a new tab. Okay. Okay, so we're in. And what I want, here's my prompt down at the bottom here.
Yeah.
So first thing I want to do, I want to, let me see if I can find this here. I want to take this citation. There's a limitation on the number of words you can upload to Copilot. They've limited it to 500 words, so there's no way that I could upload this document to Copilot. But what I can do is I can give it the citation and ask it to take a look at it. So I'm going to ask it to analyze this. So could you analyze, and there's the citation, right? And Becker, etc. And let me see, what I want to know is, let me see, come down here. What is the issue at hand that is being examined in this article, and how do the authors articulate the research question? My spelling's horrible. Here we go. How do the authors articulate the research question And the reason I'm asking that is because I want to know like what words. Too many letters in here. Okay. And the reason I want to know this is because the thing that organizes a paper is the research question, right?
Mhm.
Everything is going to be in relation to what in ancient rhetoric we would have called the stasis, and the stasis is basically the matter at hand
Yeah.
that's being under discussion, under debate, whatever. And so here we have a research question, and that's what we want to locate. And I would like to see like where it is, but I'd also like to see how is it articulated. And then also, let's see, how did the investigators structure the paper so that the conclusion that they came to was close to beyond reproach. So how did they get to, or yeah, as close as possible,
Mhm.
close as possible to being beyond reproach, okay? Finally, can you identify any weaknesses in their case study? And I think I just want to know that because there's always a weakness.
Mhm.
And you should expect there to be a weakness in your paper as well.
Yeah.
But some weaknesses you can only you can't really, they're not important enough to overcome, or they're kind of like taken for granted as being weaknesses, and there's no way around that.
Mhm.
And then possibly also that the fact that there's a weakness kind of gives you a better sense of how much you should trust your results. Like maybe recognizing that these are the results I got. However, I understand that there's some of these weaknesses, and maybe there's some things you could do to kind of like overcome those weaknesses in future studies, that kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
and I know this is an undergraduate paper. It's not like you're trying to write a PhD thesis or anything,
Yeah.
but it's good to kind of like get all that stuff in your head. Okay, so there's the prompt, and let's see what they say. Pretty cool, huh?
Very cool.
All right, wow, that was really fast.
Mhm.
That is amazingly fast. I'm wondering if I could, oh, well, here you go. Let me see. How can I get rid of this one here? Ah, there we go. So then I can see the whole thing. It's a little bit bigger. Um, so here we go. There's my prompt right there, and then in Copilot, the article, they downloaded the article. They are obviously got to it. And they're saying the issue at hand is to differentiate SCT, which is up here, sluggish cognitive tempo, from ADHD and other related psychopathologies, and to provide a detailed clinical description of SCT in a real life case study.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's what the job of the study is to try to differentiate these two things.
Yeah.
Um, and I would imagine the reason why they're doing that is probably somewhere in the article. Um, the research question. The authors articulate the research question by focusing on how SCT manifests in a clinical setting and how it can be distinguished from ADHD and other combined conditions. And I'm gathering from reading that just what's being implied there is that people are not able to make this distinction. So it must be difficult to make this distinction, and so that's what they're doing here. The research question is stated as, how does sluggish cognitive tempo SCT present in a clinical evaluation for ADHD, and how can it be differentiated from ADHD and other related psychopathologies? Cool, huh?
Interesting.
Yeah. So there you go. There's the actual statement of the problem right there. This is the research question they're trying to answer. And the paper is structured, and you can see it has what we would refer to as an IMRAD structure. It's introduction, methods, results, discussion. And you have a case description in there. So introduction provides background on the sluggish, what was that? Sluggish cognitive tempo. Obviously, it's something I suffer from, and its differentiation from ADHD. The case description details the case of a 7-year-old girl named Jessica, including her symptoms. Assessment method describes the tools and rating scales used to evaluate her symptoms. Not a lot of detail here. Kind of really super summary. It's not really much detail here, but it does give you the breakdown. Results presents the finding from assessments highlighting the presence of SCT symptoms and their differentiation from ADHD. Discussion interprets the results, discusses the implication for clinical practice, suggests areas for future research, summarizes the key findings and their significance. So I guess, and then the weakness is it's a single case study, and your paper will be a single case study also.
Yeah.
So that is a weakness. It's always a weakness. It's hard to generalize from one study, right? If you did 5 studies and you got similar findings across all 5 of those studies, then you could say, okay, there's something here that we can possibly generalize at least to some extent, or we can make a theory or a hypothesis about what's going on. Subjectivity, the reliance on parental and teacher reports introduces potential bias. So that's something that they recognize as a weakness. And then, so like if somebody were to contest this study, they might point to that, and they might make maybe make some kind of accusation against the study, and saying there needs to be a better method or something like that. Lack of longitudinal data, which would be, of course, several studies over time with many people, and those are things that we don't do in undergraduate programs. I'm not even sure. It's possible they might do them in a PhD study, but I would say mostly it's professional studies that are done by several people across several universities, and they work together to do those kinds of studies. It says overall the paper is well structured, provides a detailed clinical portrait of SCT, but the limitations should be considered when interpreting the findings. Okay. So what do you think? Here we go. Like they're showing that the structure is introduction, and they're using headings here and so forth. Okay. And looking at your paper, I didn't see any headings, and I don't know if headings are typically the way that these things are looked at. But I can say, like, if I could get out of this here, I can see that. And there's your paper, and there's no headings in that, no. But if I were to copy that again and go into, let's say I'll go into, Google Scholar. And find this. Oh, let me come back. Let me get the full view. I guess that is the full view. Will it give me a PDF, I wonder? Oh yeah, okay, here it is. So you can use the outline from the menus. So here we go. get rid of that. Here, I can download it. Get rid of that. Okay, so here it is, and you can see here, this is the model that you looked at.
Yeah.
Had keywords. These are headings, and I don't see an introduction. I don't see a section called introduction. This is all part of, I'm guessing that is the introduction starts here.
Yeah.
To date, the diagnostic, and so forth, but there's no heading for it. And then there's evaluation procedures, which seems to me sounds like a method. Jessica was referred to for an ADHD evaluation, and then the evaluation results. So these are the results of an evaluation. Not really. This is like this is grist for the mill. This is really kind of like the information they're using to make their case. Intelligence, academic achievement, diagnostic interview, ADHD and SCT rating scales. Okay, so that's like measurement, information, criteria for measurement, and then discussion, which is kind of like part of that IMRAD structure. So there is an introduction, and there is a method section, and there is some sense of some of the results of what they found. And then there is a discussion of those results, and they break it down, right, into parts, right? Case for SCT, comorbidity and differential diagnosis, assessments, diagnosis, and treatment. Okay, and so there's no section titled conclusion.
Yeah.
But you could probably say it probably starts assessment, diagnosis, and treatment. You see here, ultimately our evaluation resulted in, and then let me see, although no interventions have been specifically designed, preliminary evidence suggests that some evidence-based ADHD interventions may also reduce SCT symptoms. Yeah, so I'm guessing that these are the conclusions are not like conclusive, like final. These are findings that they have to take into consideration when they design their next study. It should be noted that consistent with previous empirical research, this case study has conceptualized SCT as a psychopathology, but it of course remains to be seen if SCT is ultimately best considered as distinct psychiatric disorder. So they really didn't come to any decision yet. They have lots of information, but it's not enough for them to conclude that it should be a distinct psychiatric disorder.
Yeah.
And that's how they finish. Funding, did you get any funding for your paper?
I did not.
Oh my God. And then the references are here. Okay, so anyway, that gives you a sense of the kind of structure that you can see here. What I'm wondering is if we should maybe upload your paper to Copilot and see what it says about, ask it the same exact questions and see what it says and see if it says something similar.
Yeah.
And that'll kind of give you a sense of how close you are to the target, which is this case study that you identified as part of your research.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Sound good.
All right, let's take a crack at it here. All right. Okay. Before I upload your paper and take a look at that, I did want to find where it is in the article that these words appear. How the sluggish cognitive tempo STT present in clinical evaluation for ADHD, and how can it be differentiated from ADHD and other related psychopathologies. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put it into here. Where's the paste? Paste, there you go. Okay, So I'm going to ask it, where in the Becker article see what happens when we put this in, see if it can locate it for us. So I'm just kind of curious where in the introduction. I'm assuming it's in the introduction. And it's saying, I couldn't find the exact phrase in the full text of the Becker article, though, however, the research question is typically articulated in the introduction or early sections of the paper. Duh, no kidding, Dick Tracy. Where the authors outline their objectives and aims. If you have access to the full text, well, I actually gave them access, but just let's take a look at the full text here. And you can see there's the introduction without the heading, right? And usually, if you're going to find a research question, it's probably going to be in the final paragraph or the penultimate paragraph. And so here's the final paragraph, and it says, despite the burgeoning scientific literature examining SCT, little is known about its clinical presentation. Although important steps have recently been made in validating rating scale measures of SCT, these measures do not themselves offer a clinically meaningful portrait of a child with SCT. In addition, although recent studies have empirically differentiated between ADHD and SCT, agreed-upon criteria for classifying SCT do not exist. Thus, the current. So there's the justification for doing the case report for this 7-year-old girl. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we know that that's probably the best you're going to get in terms of what is the research question. It's basically saying that the case study is in order to better understand how these things work. Okay. So I'm going to load your paper. And I'm going to ask it, the same question. Let me see here. Oops, I don't know if I just did that by mistake. Oh, okay. So it's doing the same thing as what happened in the Becker article. Let me see, where does this begin? Okay, so I've reviewed the document uploaded. It appears to be an essay titled "The Role of Working Memory in HD." So it's identifying it as an essay, which I think is interesting. It doesn't see it as a case study. And here's the breakdown. So key points: introduction. So it is identifying kind of sections in your paper. And what's happening in each of those sections.
Yeah.
And so I guess one of the things you want to think about as the writer of the paper is what is it telling you is in these sections, and are these the things that you actually would say would have, is this the kind of information you would have put into these sections? Let me see. Oh, it just has this here. It doesn't have the text. Okay. I'm going to just do it one more time here, just to make sure. Let's try it one more time, see if we get the same results, because I think it missed all the details. Okay, yeah, now it's breaking it down differently. Okay, that's better. All right, okay, so that's much better. So, primary issue at hand, examined in this article is the role of working memory deficits in the symptomatology of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Study aims to understand how these deficits manifest in individuals with ADHD and how they contribute to daily challenges faced by these individuals. Sound right?
Sounds good. Yeah,
all right.
Sounds about right.
Articulation of the research question. We found out from the last one that they just make stuff up, but they're kind of really what they're doing is they're kind of summarizing or paraphrasing what you would have said had you stated it in a very specific way. The authors articulate the research question by focusing on the cognitive challenges associated with ADHD, specifically working memory deficits. The research question is implicitly stated as, how do working memory deficits manifest in individuals with ADHD, and what are the implications for daily functioning and intervention strategies? Does that sound right?
That sounds right, yeah.
Okay. And then words used to state the research question. The exact words used to state the question not explicitly provided. However, research question is inferred from the introduction and the objectives outlines. Okay, so that's what they're understanding.
Yeah.
What you see in articulation of the research question is what they have understood from what you have said. It's not an exact replication. It's just they're just saying this is what they think you're asking. And then the structure. So you have introduction, case description, assessment methods, results, theoretical framework, empirical evidence, limitations, interventions, and conclusions. Weaknesses, findings based on a single study, like in the last one, reliance on single cognitive task, provides a limited view of working memory function. Other aspects of working memory, such as visuospatial working memory, were not assessed. Sample size, small control group size, 5 neurological peers, may not provide a robust comparison. Lack of longitudinal data, which we saw in the other one as well. And then the conclusion, paper is well structured, provides valuable insights into the role. So well structured. So AI is finding the paper is well structured. All right. So this is good. It's taking us a lot less time. It's really not taking us a lot of time because we're having the help of a reader that reads like super fast and can assess like this. We do see that AI can be inaccurate, so it's important that we go back and check on anything we're not sure about. But it's seeing that even though there's no headings in your paper, and they're giving you some ideas of how the headings might be realized, and you can see here a summary of key findings in the conclusion, interventions, suggest potential interventions. So that would be like future research, or what you would do to follow up on this, some limitations in your study, empirical evidence, right? So these are some pretty classical kinds of headings that you might put in your paper to help you organize and structure for the reader, as well as for yourself. Well structured, provides valuable insights into the role of working memory deficits in ADHD. The use of theoretical framework and empirical evidence strengthens the argument, while the discussion of limitations provides a balanced perspective. However, the generalizability of the findings is limited due to the small sample size, which you would have assumed anyway.
Yeah.
I think probably your teacher just wants to know that you're able to take the statistical data that you get, organize it, and come to some conclusions based on what you find.
Yeah.
I don't think they want you to get like a Nobel Peace Prize or anything like that.
No.
So, Yeah. So what do you think?
Sounds good. Looks
Sounds
good.
good?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, just be safe with this stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure that you have some sort of protection. The Copilot is purchased by the university, and it's made so that it doesn't, share your information or any of your materials. But you can't assume that from other AI platforms. So just be really careful when you're going out and using these things. But it gives, I hate to say it, but most of the time people would come to us for this, but you could actually help yourself with this as well.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't come to us, but I'm just saying, this
Yeah.
is something that you could do like when you have doubts.
Yeah.
And also, if you compare what they see in a regular research article compared to what they see in yours, you can kind of get a sense of like where you're not really in what's the word, in agreement with what would typically be seen in papers in your field that are similar to the kinds of work that you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Good luck.
Thanks,
Okay. Have fun. Get an A.
Thank you. Will
All
do.
right. Cheers. All right. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Okay. In addition to learning how to write in an academic context, for academic assessment or publication, students also have to learn to read the scholarship on the issues in their chosen field of study. They need to learn not only what people are saying about the issues that are the focus of scholars in their field, but they also need to pay attention to and emulate the way people say what they say, how they write, the genres, the formats, the language, the evidence that they use to make their case. When tutors are confronted with assignments from students in disciplines that are completely foreign to the tutor, one recourse is to let AI do some of the work. Some things are common to all fields. Scholars in all fields engage with issues in their field in order to expand the field of knowledge that is specific to that field. And sometimes that field has an impact on other fields. So an even wider expansion of our field of knowledge. All scholarly papers have a stasis, an issue that is to be treated in the paper. This could be a research question or a hypothesis to be affirmed or negated, or a problem to be solved or a claim to be defended, whatever shape it's in. It is the promise of the paper, and all that follows is working toward the conclusion, which is the keeping of that promise. Here, the tutor asks, what is the issue at hand in the paper? How is the study organized, structured? And what, if anything, are the weaknesses in the case made? As we saw, even in professionally written published papers, the issue at hand is not explicitly stated. We also saw that AI can sometimes imply that something is said in the text that is not actually explicitly stated in the text at all. Double checking between the original text and what AI says is in the text is obviously important. However, through this process of asking AI to analyze an article or chapter that performs the same kind of work we are being asked to do in an assignment, an essay or research report or case study or review article, whatever it is, not only are the questions about the writer's choices learned, but so are the questions about how to read. Reading for writing is how people learn to communicate to a particular audience. Imitation was a commonplace in the pedagogy of ancient rhetoric, as was rhetorical analysis and exercise. The world marvels at Joyce's ability in the Oxen of the Sun chapter of Ulysses, where he perfectly emulates in historical order 32 literary styles from pagan times to the late 18th century, representing, in Joyce's mind, the embryonic development that birthed Joyce's own literary choices in Ulysses. When we read, we learn about our audience, the subjects that concern people in our field, the degrees of formality that are acceptable, the degree of rigor required, the level of accepted subjectivity, the kind of evidence valued, the way continuity with extant discourse is communicated, on ad infinitum. Asking AI is ethical if students' identity and the material uploaded is protected, and if the student writer can use AI to establish where they are in relation to their target. As we saw, AI cannot be relied upon without scrutiny. The material it provides must be examined, just as we would critically examine anything before we accept it as valid or sound. If the prompts are correct, it can elicit from AI information that will lead to writing that is stylistically in tune with the expectations of people in the audiences who discourse on the problems that are relevant to you as a member of your chosen field.